Abshir, what did we do today? We did absolute value, and what is your I can statement for absolute value now? What is your I can statement? Matthew, what is it? Loud.
I can find absolute value.
Can you find absolute value, Matthew?
Yeah.
You feel confident in yourself now? Just as a side note, all of you, when I said how many of you know absolute value, all of you said you didn't. So now all of you are like, okay, Mr. Potter, I can do this. So here it is. Vocab is extremely important. No one knew absolute value when we started. I gave you the definition, and absolute value is always what? And absolute value is the distance a number is from what number? 0. Distance a number is from 0. Wonderful. Okay? And remember what an opposite number is, and an additive inverse are basically the same thing, right?
Yeah.
An opposite, excuse me, an opposite and an additive inverse are basically the exact same thing. It's numbers that have their value the exact same distance from 0. And they're on opposite sides of the number line. Okay, sweet. You gotta know that stuff. This is the symbol for absolute value. So the example would be, this is the absolute value of 1, right? Right? So 2 vertical parallel lines with a number inside is referring to absolute value. Are 2 vertical parallel lines just like parentheses?
Yes.
So if you were doing order of operations, you would do what's inside of those according to order of operations, right?
Yes.
Wonderful. And then I'm going to skip through 5A, 5B, 5C. 5D was kind of a fun one. We're throwing a variable at you. So here's absolute value in its finest. Letter E gets fun. So we have the absolute value of a number sentence, 6 minus 4. So we broke down the number sentence and said, okay, 6 minus 4 is 2. The absolute value of 2 is 2, right? Okay, and then we got a little fancier. We did the absolute value of 3 minus 12, which is the absolute value of -9, which is 9. And then we got a little more funky on letter G, and we said that the absolute value of -3 is 3, right? But we can't forget about this negative, so we had to throw the negative sign in front of the number, right? And then our world collapsed on us when we got to letter H. All of you, I think it was all of you, pretty sure it was all of you, got it wrong. So what we did is we systematically worked it out following order of operations. And we said, well, let's treat these as parentheses. And let's go left to right, right? Left to right. So we did the absolute value of 11 minus 3, which was the absolute value of 8. And then we rewrote everything else. We kept this negative, we kept this plus, and we kept this entire absolute value. Then we still had work to do in here, right? What's the absolute value of 8?
8.
So we wrote down 8. We wrote down the negative and everything else, right? And then we did the absolute value of -2 minus 1. So -2 minus 1 is -3. So we rewrote everything again. Then we got the absolute value of -3 is 3. We rewrote everything again. And then -8 plus 3. Some of you said, Mr. Potter, that's really hard for me. So you made a number line. You put a 0 here. You put a -8 here, because that's where we're starting, right? And you added 3 to that. So you went -7, -6, -5, right? And that was your answer. Yes or no?
Yes.
Questions?